this is not a really good career choice, talking about this topic. Because you really can't do anything. It's, like Starbucks, they take one product and they make 50 different things out of it. Like coffee, and now there's like 50 different things of coffee, but it's still coffee. But this message is sort of doesn't lend itself to stretching itself out in time, yeah? Because it doesn't have anything to do with time. Yeah? And so more isn't better in this case. And what I run into personally with it is that I don't do retreats or anything because I don't believe in it. I don't believe in a 10-day event. I mean, I believe in a 10-day vacation, with like one talk a night or something, but not like, a whole thing where you're studiously going over it, because that's the problem, is you. The more you study it, the more it seems to escape you. And I just noticed that, and so it is an invitation. Now the invitation can be repeated quite a lot, but it can't be stretched into a dissertation, because you'll lose like the lightning bolt aspect of it, yeah, and then you'll get a description of the storm, so to speak, yeah. You want to get hit with the lightning, or have that hit, and not a telling of other people's hits or prior hits or 8,000-year hits, but a hit now. And then a lot of times it's best to leave it on its own and let it reverberate in your life, yeah? Not to keep having to listen to it, but to hear it then, yeah? Just to see what happens. And that's what it was like for me. I heard the message, people delivered it to me, and then I entertained it, and then I honored those people, but I didn't feel impelled to see them anymore. Yeah? Though I honored what happened with them. And this isn't going to happen between me and you, obviously. You're going to want to see me constantly. This is just my own experience. And because I'm special, I'm different. I'm not like those others. But I mean, I would like to go to satsang, but how I was going there changed, yes? I wasn't going to look for anything anymore. It's just like right now, like when I go to an AA meeting, I'm not looking to get anything there. I just go there, It's sort of, I'm at the point where I don't think about going to a meeting, I just think about which one, yeah? And I go there, and I feel a presence, and it's pretty reliable, and it's just nice, and I participate with others, so I get a sense of belonging, which seems to help with the well-being of the action figure, and it just works, yeah? Simple as that. I'm not wanting to make it work more, or to get an extreme working of it. I just let it work, because you do the rest, really. This is just a message. It's just there to trigger what's already available, yeah? It's just there to trigger what's already available. And then the finding out will happen in your own life, yes? The reinforcement of that possibility may happen in the meetings, but the finding out what it's like will be while you're living, yeah? Because you can't live in a contrived condition the rest of your days, yeah? You're not going to be on a 24/7 retreat with catered food and, massages at 12 and 4 and stuff like that. You may, but probably you won't. There's going to be a point where you're going to be out, yeah? And that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where the value of it is, because what you would be driven to look for, you'll be seeing from, yeah? You'll be seeing from the solution instead of looking for another solution. Yeah? You'll be seeing from it. And it will bring a whole different ease and comfort. Yes? Not an ease and comfort that comes from a lot of strenuous, arduous looking, but a basic inherent ease and comfort during the day, without doing much, really. It just becomes the new norm in your life. Yeah? No bells and whistles constantly go off. No one may be, oh, look at that, nothing like that. It's just really dog shit awareness. You're just awake, yeah? And the point was, you've always been awake, yeah? The only thing that you can do is seem not to be. You can never erase the awakeness, but you can seem not to be awake, which is that definition again, which is it can appear to be true or false to you. So sometimes you will allow yourself, the mental state as your dominant force will allow yourself to feel good when it gives you the permission to be awake. But usually that's based on doing something. Like you went on the retreat and you listened for 12 hours and you meditated, and then suddenly you had a little opening, yeah? It was sort of like a candy for being good, yes? But the fact is, then that melts in your mouth, and then you're back to eating the same old gruel, you know? Seeking and trudging and looking and looking and looking. Yeah? Yeah. This isn't that. This isn't the seeming awake and seemingly unawake. It's awakeness, yeah, that allows you to see the seeming awakeness and seeming unawakeness. But none of them have an effect on the basic awakeness, yeah? You never get, it's like that old Who's song, the old boss, same, new boss, same as the old boss. You won't be fooled again. You're not fooled anymore. You're inherently awake, and that's that. Yeah? There's nothing that you can do or not do to change it. Yeah? That's just the basic state. Yeah? So, all right, so now that's clear. And so what happens is, if you tend to forget that and you assume the role of being the doer of it or the vigilant sentinel of that, then you go to a satsang. Yeah? And then you hear it, the thing gets subdued, gets dropped, and there you are. The only thing that seems to be efforting is when you're trying to sort of weaken the mental state and so that you arrive at the being state. When you're just resting in the being state, that's it. You know, that's payola. That's the end of it, you know. And you just rest there, and then if some confusion arises and you think you have to do something, then maybe you'll hear something said, and then you go back into that relaxation of resting in the being, yeah? Instead of looking for being from a mental state, you'll be seeing the mental state from being, yeah? And you'll see it. The mental state will reveal itself. In one little bit of it, you'll see its whole scheme, yeah? You really will. It's just, the movie isn't that intriguing, it's the audience, yeah? We're cherishing that idea of being Paul. When you lose interest in that love of that Paul, of being special and right and all this and all that, that interest and attention will be freed from that addiction, and it will go somewhere. And that's what you find out, what happens with it. You'll find out. Someone says it, what they think happens with it, but it won't do any real good until you start sensing it. Where the interest and attention now rests in this life is that it enriches my Sunday, yes? It's not drawing my attention it's not drawing me, seemingly me, into tomorrow with the hopes that that will be better than today. Yeah? I don't see the influence of any tomorrow right now. I'm not feeling it, I'm not hearing it, I'm not tasting it, I'm not touching it. It's so obviously there's only this that there's no possibility there could be anything else. Where before my mental state assumes that it could be somewhere other than where it is. Yeah? That assumption's gone. So it's not like I ever landed. I never actually took off. I never went anywhere. It was just a seemingly so. When all the huffing and puffing is done, you're still exactly where you were. Yeah? As what you are. Yeah? All your heinous things hasn't left one mark in it. All your self-importance that you could really ruin it can't. Yeah? It's just like openly available at all times. All the requirements are on our side. We make up shit. You know what I mean? I did something bad, therefore I don't deserve to feel this. Or I haven't done enough, therefore I don't deserve to do this. Or I did too much, and therefore I don't. It's just like a God playing that's keeping God from God in a way. Yeah. So that's what this is the message for me. And sometimes I think it's short and sweet. So usually when I go into a talk, I'm really impelled to share. But if I had to do this every day, like for 4 hours a day, I would be bored in 3 days. It would be like flaying a dead horse. Yeah? I mean, this message is meant to be delivered, Not the mail. I'm like the mailman. I'm not supposed to move in. You know what I mean? I'm not supposed to move in. I'm meant to, you know, here's the news, okay? See ya. Oh, let me go home with you. No. Here's the news, you know. Please read it, you know. Maybe entertain it. All right, we're going to have 10 days getting the same mail. No, there's no need to get it for 10 days straight. Maybe it would do too much, you see? There would be too much opportunity to think about it. And once the thinking is around it, it makes it something. Yeah? So maybe the first day you feel what's going on, by the third day you've made it something. Yeah? And now you're practicing your program through the next 7 days. Yes? And you're going to get your results. Yeah? Which is what you don't want anymore. So no, this is just short and sweet. And I love it that way. Because the trigger is that here, and yet this is where it flowers. And it isn't in a certain pot. And it doesn't need a certain temperature or a certain climate. It's all-terrain vehicle-ness, you know? You'll see it. You go to your job. See, this is not a path to illumination. It is not a path to illumination. You are not going to get suggestions and steps to get somewhere that you're not. It's not happening. This is what will illuminate every path you're on, or any path you're on. But it is not a path to illumination. But it will illuminate every path you're on. Because whatever path you're on it. And you are the bearer of the light. You are the bringer of the light. We're now trying to use light to... is this working? All right, I don't want to screw it up like last time. We're now in some states attempting to use light to find light. Yes? You know how absurd that is, if you could just sit with it? We're trying to use mind to find mind. You ever hear of The Onion? It's a little satirical thing. My friend sent me something, and I hope I do it justice, but it was like, the Congress of Psychologists finally admit they can't know mind. They've been trying to use mind to know mind for a long time, and they finally admit it's impossible. You can't use mind to find mind. Yeah? There's just a recognition, because what causes that assumption to seem so logical is there's been an act of identification as in place. Yeah? You become identified as something, and from that logic, it sounds like, yeah, I should be looking for the truth. It makes total sense, but it's an insane system that it's coming from. Yeah? The underlying state is insanity, and then there's an extreme righteous logic. Yeah? If you don't see the underlying state, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm not feeling right. I've got to go look for something to make me feel better. It cannot obviously be me, because it seems like the me I want to get out of. Yeah? I don't want this me to be the center of my life. It's driving me crazy. You know? I don't want to find it in that. I want to find it out there for that. Yeah? And there we go. And we think, hey, if I get a good enough practice, it will soothe that beast. Has it? We end up, it's like an extortion, tightening. All right, I'm not going to let you feel peace unless you kick up your meditation 2 hours a day. All right, 2 hours a day. And then what happens? You're meditating every day. You have this sense of calm. But what happens if you miss the meditation? All day, you interpret the whole day as ruined. Why? Because you didn't meditate. But when you were a kid, was your days ruined if you didn't meditate? But suddenly now your day is ruined because you haven't meditated. Don't you see that as a requirement? And what's putting that requirement up to be met? Is it you? Or is it the tyrant of the parasite of self-centeredness? You're living under a fucking yoke, and it's driving us to this, then that, this and that, this and that. How many persons have heard the message, and yet they've gone to 20 other different people delivering it, so they can get a flavor of something they never fucking tasted? You entertain it, and then you get a hit of it. More flavors aren't going to produce the taste. Yeah? One can do. One taste of any ice cream will tell you what ice cream is. Yeah? It's not collecting flavors and not having any taste. There's a recognition. For me, it was an unspoken yes. I heard it from some other person, and it registered to a point where I knew it beyond knowing, you know? I knew it. I just knew it, and it was like the gig was up. All right, now I'm going to read some books, entertain it, feed it, because there seems to be an incredible curiosity now. Let's feed it. It's like this. It's like an old car, and it breaks down, and you're with your friend. And it's an old car, so you got a carburetor, yes? And you got the air filter. So I'm in the car, and I have my friend go out, and I got a can of gas, and I'm trying to start it. I'm pumping it, but it won't catch. So we open up the hood, take the air filter out, and I tell my friend, put a couple of drops of gas in the carburetor, yeah? When he puts a couple of gas in the carburetor, I pump it, and it catches, yeah? If he pours more in, it floods it again. It floods it, yeah? All it needs is a couple of drops, and as soon as the engine's on, it doesn't need any more. Recognize your engine is already on. It's already on. So then you won't be beholden to anything. Yeah? You'll be truly and literally free, because nothing can keep the peace from you. Nothing can charge you money to get the peace. You're not walking into places to see what you can get. You're walking into places because you're walking into places, basically. And then expression occurs. We thought the hose was a vacuum, and it's not. It's a hose. We made a mistake. We thought it was supposed to suck shit up. It's supposed to conduct something else, water, yes? Or you want to call it awareness or consciousness, wants to move through. In recovery, they talk about the hole. They sometimes call it the God hole. And everyone's trying to fill it up. But if they stop trying to fill it up, they realize it's a portal. It's going to come out there. Yeah? It's not something to fill up. Leave it alone. Something's going to come through. Yeah? If you're busily going and the thing wants to go, how is it going to happen? Yeah. The sense of being wants to express. It doesn't need any more accumulation. It's already complete in and of itself. It can't get better. It's complete. It doesn't need any more time to get ready to express. It's timeless. It doesn't have to go through purification to be able to express. It's timeless. It's not of thingness. How can we keep separating ourselves from that? By this allegiance to this idea, this mental idea that we're somehow completely a body. And then to take every time we feel the attributes of consciousness, keep applying them as an attribute I have as a body. Yeah? Like I'm the one who's seeing. Just because things are claimed doesn't mean they're yours. Yes? You claim them to be your thoughts. Do they behave? Do they behave like you would like them to behave? How many affirmations have you said with the hopes that something would change? How much was returned? How much? How much all the tithing, all the thinking, how much has it really delivered? It's been taking all your interest out of your bank, not putting any in. Yeah. You've been living in a heist. We've been living in a heist, not knowing it, pointing fingers at everything else. Well, we're already occupied territory. We're beholden to a crazy idea of mind. It's so freeing when you feel it's like you've been a storage unit, and then it's so great when the windows, like juxtaposed windows, open up and you feel some circulation. You feel aliveness actually happening. The interest and attention isn't stunted by this billboard with my picture on it. It goes through, circulates, picks up the pollen of infinity, brings it back here, pollinates your days with it. Yes, comes back, spends it all, and goes back and gets pollinated again by the eternal flowers, and then comes back, and now you feel the better for it. You feel like you're a living fucking system, you know? Not just a living physical organs, but a spirit, what do you want to call it, energetic, spiritual, and it's completing its circuitry, yes? Not boom, 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 boom. Everything I see, it's been me seeing it, you know? Me, this. Everything I hear, this, hearing it, you know? But no, hearing, seeing, you know, just like a giant rush. It's like hearing the ocean all day. You hear the celestial spheres. You hear what they call as the music of the spheres. You can hear it all day. It's the underlying sound all other sounds rest on. You're like a generator. You can hear the humming of onness going on all day. You can always go back to it. Yeah, and just rest there. If you need an object of meditation, rest in that. Your own generation. Your own onness, the own I am. You can sense the engine of I amness, the engine of being. You can hear it humming. Yeah. Put the mind there. It's always available. It's the greatest object of meditation of all. It's happening right in your own body. Just vibrations of making. It's all going off. If you ever hear one, capture it, sit on it, see what happens. Yeah. It all starts, you're not. Because it doesn't matter if it's so, if there's no attention and interest to honor that. It doesn't. If your interest and attention has been captured by the mental state, and has been hidden in the mental state in time. It's been stretched out into all those past ideas, all those ideas going there, and then all these future concerns. So this incredible power has been distilled into it, has very little influence now except to keep the enslavement in place. The same old thoughts about what's going to happen to me, and you just run right to it, and your interest, attention, praise at it, and it's like worshiping your idol of Paul. Yeah, and so you feel empty now, and so what are you going to do? Almost anything. For me, I went down the drug and alcohol path, and I would do almost anything not to be here. Because the here wasn't here, it was a mental here. I was trapped in my mental state. My interest and attention couldn't fucking get out. Because every time it tried to go out, it went out as a self, which is a product of the mental state. It couldn't escape the effects of time. Enslavement is based on being identified as a self. All the thoughts, that's the only weather vane they go to in the past. It's a picture of you. You're thinking about what happened to you 5 years ago. Yeah, and you're thinking about what will happen to you 5 hours from now. Yeah. And you have incredible concern because you're afraid it won't go your way. Why? Because it hasn't in the past. You're trying to manage and control to try to keep something that can't be stabilized to be stable at least for 5 minutes. You know, so I can have a respite one day. It's like a never-ending chore, and the return is so minimal. Yeah, all based on this fucking idea that you're something that lacks, you're something that needs, you're something. And the only thing that's going to leaven that trip is some nothing. Yeah? You've got to allow something in. Not for you. Because I'll tell you, the being has already been hijacked, in a sense, by the mental state. We're trying to do and have ourselves into a state of being. And all you can do and have yourself into is another mental state. You cannot do and have yourself into being. Being is what's prior to all the doing and having. Then it gets to the point, well, why don't you just let go? I remember when people used to say that, why don't you just let go? I said, what the fuck? I would if I could. I can't let go because I believe I'm holding on. That was where the release was. Have I ever held on? No. Cut out. See, if it's about me letting go, it assumes I've been holding on. That's a lie. There's no me to hold on to anything. That was where my salvation came. This freedom that came to me was prior to the bondage, not after the bondage. It wasn't about letting go. It was realizing there was never anything holding on. There's never been a thought that could affect anything. Yeah. The freedom is prior to the bondage. It's realizing something, that you were never that, you will never be that, and you are not that now. It's not something you produced, it's just a fact. Yeah. We're living in la-la land. We're in a mental delusion. We're taking ourselves to be something we're not. And the whole mental state is about facilitating the reinforcement of that. Yeah? Why do you think you're obsessed with self so much? Because if you weren't, you wouldn't feel like you were a self. Something that isn't so has to proclaim it's so all day. Something that is so doesn't have to say a damn thing. Yeah. But something that isn't so has to keep advertising it so all day so that you will buy it. Yeah. You will put it on. And then you will live by its dimensions and its rules. And suddenly that little kid that was free and spontaneous and had wonder and awe is now a slave of time. And where's the wonder and awe in our lives? How many times are we stopped by a flower now? We're too busy. We've got to get somewhere. With somewhat, some weird hope that when we get there, it's going to fulfill what we didn't get fulfilled here. It's always another there. It goes on and on. It's like, you ever see those hamster wheels in a cage? Yeah. It's just a metal thing. Yeah. It doesn't, the definition of the wheel has to be brought to it by the hamster. The hamster, when it gets in, starts running around. And it's bitching about the wheel, but it's causing it. And then when it gets out, it goes, I can't believe a miracle. The wheel stopped. And then it goes, wow, it's great. And then suddenly it's back in the wheel, and there it goes again. And it never puts two and two together. The wheel is the wheel because you are. You're in it. As soon as there's the hamster, it makes the hamster wheel. As soon as there's a sense of self, there's a sense of time. They're the same thing. They're synonymous. There is no sense of self without time. And there is no time without the sense of self. Self has to be remembered. It needs time. It can appear, so it can only seem to appear, and it seems to appear by being remembered. That's why you're so exhausted sometimes, because your mental state is hugely busy reinforcing this crazy idea that you're a body. See it when you do something you love, you play music or have sex or surf, you forget. Your attention isn't on the remembrance of self. You're not following every thought. You're in the wave, or you're rolling around with someone you love, whatever it may be that is a pot where it expresses in your life. It's not coming from the event into you. It's triggering that thing, that joy or that from you. That's all. Yeah? Don't think it's that's producing it. it's being drawn out of you, because that's the predilection that's in place in your life. You love the water. So in there, what that is gets drawn out. It doesn't get put in. Yeah. Selfing, all it does, it takes all that interest and attention and puts it into the mental state, and then loses its true fucking power by dispersing it on these strings of time. So it gets sent to think about you an hour ago, 5 minutes ago, 4 hours ago. Then it gets sent to think about you, the thoughts about you a minute later, 5 hours later, 3 years later. And you know what? You exhaust its fucking potential, its possibility, which is to bring up, to really enlighten one in the state of being. Yeah? To really be very illuminated in the state of being. The electricity of that state is brought to you by the interest and attention, and now it's been dispersed in this fucking time tunnel. And all the thoughts are like targets because they represent, it's a thought about me, or it's my thought. And there it goes. The intention and interest, like a bloodhound, follows that scent and goes to all those insane possibilities. Oh, I'm going to have cancer. Or I'll be destitute. And it's not even destitution you're worried about. It's the meaning the head gives it. The meaning of the head gives it all is what's scaring the bejesus out of you. You have no idea what it would be like to be destitute. It may be great. You may finally open up to humility and something could really happen, but that's not what you think will happen. And so you're afraid of what you think will happen. Not what's going to happen or not. You're a fucking scared shit. You're going to get the meanings that you're thinking about in life at you. What is that? What's fueling that meaning is the faith you have in the thought system. You believe the fucking things. And they're used to hold sway over you. Everyone here has tons of faith. Faith manifests by the vehicle it's put in. I'm going to say it again. In manifestation, there's a force, there's something that's been demonstrated. You want to call it a force of mind, big M mind. Faith. Yet faith, what its effects in manifestation are based on what it is put into. So let's say there's a thought system that's built on time, yes? That's centered in self, yes? That has extreme swings of inordinate concern for this self. And you have faith in the thoughts, so when the thoughts go 5 years from now, and the faith impels them there, you believe the thoughts, it produces an effect right now. You contract as this event. Your body contracts, your emotional state contracts, a little shell starts forming, yes? And now you can't receive and nothing can really transmit. You're just living a horizontal loop of what can happen to me. And so faith put in the vehicle of this fucking failed thought system will produce tons of anxiety. It will mimic the effects of fear, and there's nothing that's there to threaten you. It's all happening in the mental realm. And now what they've come to, pills, stuff like that to try to get relief. Oh, you don't have to leave the mental state. We'll just try to make it better. And then in America, they have to say the side effects. It's unbelievable. Oh yeah, you'll get a good night's sleep, but you may have rectal cancer, rectal bleeding, and just, oh, okay, that sounds pretty good. I'll take my chances. Can you imagine that as a solution? Oh yeah, one eye may drop out or may not. You'll bleed from the rear end, but you'll be sleeping while it's happening. So who cares about an eye? That's a solution? Oh no, nothing has to change about you. We'll just change how you feel about it all. All right? But then you'll become addicted to trying to change, and then you're going to get a whopping bad feeling when you stop taking this that's producing the good feeling. Enslavement upon enslavement upon enslavement, with this stubbornness of not wanting to leave the mental state. I want to be there to get it. I want to be there as a mental state to have a spiritual awakening. It cannot work. Self only appears in a mental state. It's talking like it wants to transcend the mental state. There is no self. It can only appear in the mental state. It can only be remembered. If it left the mental state, it would be exactly what it's always been, nothing. It wouldn't even lead a smoke trail. It's nothing. It's a little imagination that's getting breathed life into by us because we believe it all. You know what this could be doing? Service. Know what this could be doing? Playing music. Know what this could be doing? Running up a beautiful hill to see a vista. But no. Paul, all fucking day. And then they always get popped or they're leaking. You know what I mean? You lose your ass to save your face. We're living based on an image. You know? I was, for some reason, I heard it and maybe I was done with it because I had followed some of these formulas and they had led nowhere. And I was really, really, as we say, there's a statement in recovery that I don't know other people can really experience it like an addict in a bottom, but it says pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. It's an incredible state of mind to be in, a mental state with just, the emotions are so flat. You're so removed out of the physical, you're not feeling a fucking thing physically. And you're just bereft, you know, you're just so, it's unbearable anymore. It's unbearable, but you can't seem to get out of the state that you're in. Yep. This is where it leads to extreme cases. It leads to a pitiful, incomprehensible state of demoralization. Save yourself that fucking experience. You know? Realize the horse you're riding is dead, and a real live one will come right by. A failed system. It's wreaking havoc on you. Even the thing you're not, the physicality, the emotions. The emotions are so skewed in most people, we can't even appreciate or receive or transmit love for another. It's like, there's too much thought that surrounds it, you know? Too much freaking thought surrounds everything. Now I come only here because this is the seed assignment, but I've been a beneficiary of a lot of the freedom. Just from what's absent in my life, the relief is unbelievable. Just from what's absent, it can't be an experience anymore because they're not here. But I know what it was like, that shadow, and the absence of that is an extreme, extreme relief that provokes a huge amount of gratitude. Yeah? And that's not even talking about the presence that became available. Just what is absent now that was constantly present in my life is more than enough. And yet I got the double gift of the presence of that space, you know? And I don't see, you know, I just attempt to share it as I see it. And I don't see it as, let's make this the new goal. Just look at what you're taking yourself to be. Yeah? If you're not that, that's that. Yeah? The first step out from it, yeah, will just lead to more steps from it. And you won't be pulled to look back when it starts crying its old story. What about me? You won't be identified with that me. Wait, I want to come with you to the spiritual awakening. No fucking way, bro. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, you know, you lost your bags at the airport, don't claim them. Just leave them. Oh yeah, that's me, mine. No, just walk away. You'll be so much better off. Seriously. Really you will. Extremely better off. And you'll be used, you know. You'll be used in little ways and big ways to express this possibility. Never, it doesn't have to be in words. That's just one seed assignment. You know, you'll bring it to your relationships, you'll bring it to your job, you'll bring it to wherever you are, you know. So one thing I don't mind pounding away at is you've got to be careful, well you don't, just let this enter you. The main movement of selfing is to claim. Yeah? The main movement of this mental process called selfing is to claim. So whatever consciousness brings into contact that it notices, you know, it's going to try to claim it. That's what it does. And once it claims it, it's made it something. And it may look similar to what you thought the truth would be like or whatever, but it's not it. It's a duplicate, yeah? It's an interpretation, a conceptual one, of what may be a real possibility. So you get left holding a bag that really won't serve you when you really need it the most. It will serve you in name only, and in controlled environments like a meeting or a retreat. It will seem to work there. But in life, it probably won't, yes? Because it's not it. It's an interpretation of it, yeah? That's like the difference between the view and the vision, yeah? The view and understanding can be helpful, but it's not the most practical aspect. The aspect of seeing is the most practical, yeah? The understanding is sort of like a substitute. So if you have erratic seeing, usually overshadowed by looking, you need an understanding to keep the looking down and allow the seeing to become more prevalent. But when the seeing gets a certain state of domination over the mental state, that's all you need is the seeing, yeah? Now, it's how you're seeing is the understanding, not an understanding about what you're looking at, yeah? It's how you seeing is the understanding. A living understanding, not an understanding while you still have the self-centered looking. It's different, totally different, totally different. They both have their own points of value, but the seeing is a lot more economical. Yeah? Yeah. It's you. So, you know what I mean? You become the dispeller of confusion. You don't have to wave a sword or anything. You know, the seeing, very clearly, seeing. Yeah, blue is blue and red is red. Everything gets very obvious, especially metaphysical stuff. You get freed from the need to be liberated, which is the greatest gift of all. Really, your interest gets... You would think that if you thought you became spiritual, your interest would be put into quote-unquote spiritual things. It may not be. Your interest is going to go where it goes, yeah? And it will enrich your experience here, yeah? Instead of enslave it to an interpretation. Well, it's that simple, really. You know, entertain the possibilities. I feel like I delivered the subpoena, the spiritual subpoena. We'll have one more court date later this afternoon, and we will go over all your convictions, and they'll all be annulled in the court of light. Yes, we're not going to. We're adjourning the mental courts. Yes, they're being turned off today. All your subpoenas, all your warrants, you're freed from. We're bringing all our charges into the court of light, and you'll be freed before you ever did anything. Yes. Yes, that's what we're doing here. Yes, bringing about the court of light to override all the judgments of the court of mind, the mental courts. Yes, because you and I have been convicted in the mental courts already, because we haven't done what we should have done. I should have done that thing when I didn't do it, and I did something I shouldn't have done, and there's no forgiving me. I should have gave my mother money that time when I had it, and I didn't. I bought cocaine, so I am convicted. Yes, 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 yes. All right, I want to go to another court. All right, down the hall's the mental court 4. I'm convicted there too. Convicted there. All right, let's go to the mental philosophical court. I'm still convicted by trying not to be convicted. No, Let's go upstairs to court of life. There's no court dates today. Because nothing's happened. Nothing ever happened, nothing will happen. You're all fucking free to go. Stop paying all those fines.
We're fine.
Man, I bet you probably you wouldn't leave the court because you think you're convicted. I want my sentence. I'm adamant about it. I did do that. Okay. So be it. As you wish. As you believe, so it is. You won't let yourself off your own hooks. You're busy blaming everything. You got a big fucking hook in your own head, and it's your arms holding it up. You're so right about you being so wrong. And so be it. As you wish, it will come to be. Have your saints and your saviors, they'll all fail you. You've been convicted in your court. If your greatest dead master would show up right now and say you never had to do anything, you never need to do anything in the future, after about an hour later, you'd be on the meditation pillow again. You wouldn't fucking listen to him or her either. You listen only to the head. That's the God of all gods, is the mental head.
In the native traditions, it's suggested that children will split, or in other psychology, will split at 7 or sometime in there. And as I'm understanding it, the split ego, and if I look at myself, I remember, a time when I was 4, a lot of drama, and mind came in and said, I have to do something, and I did. And ever since then, until I've let go. And occasionally I have to remind myself to let go again, or not occasionally, a lot.
Yeah.
But I look at that event, and that mind made up the story of all of this drama that was going on, and that I had to do something. And I'm sure I did it, like in my judgment is I did it wrong. Even though it worked out in a way, I still have the judgment that I did it wrong. So that's been, torturing me, in its own way, for the longest time. And as I'm beginning to recognize that limitation, and while I was fighting with that war within myself, and I'm hearing the opportunity that we all have, the possibility to let go and just be in that state of being rather than a state of mind.
Yes, but
My question was that it seems like right now there's not even any work for us to do in remembering the original cause, or the event where we split.
Well, the thing is, you never split, you see. The original cause is what's producing that feeling that you were the one that split. There was splitting, let's say, but why does that have to imply there was a you that did it? That's the selfing. Yeah. And it's a cause. It's not an original cause, because it's definitely not original at all. But that's the cause of it. It's the feeling that you somehow did it or didn't do it is the dilemma, not what happened.
But that was identity.
It's the act of being identified as that.
Yeah.
So the splitting, it implied there was a splitter, and that's the sense of selfing. It produces the sense of being the one behind the action, the one behind the seeing, the one behind the feeling, the one behind the thinking, and there is no one behind any of it. That's where the freedom lies. It's not by recuperating and re-educating that one that did that split. It's realizing there wasn't a one who did that split. There's never been what the mental state assumes to be so, a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. That's you. There has never been that. Yeah? You have a lot of experience of that being the case when you, or there was a baby that was called you. There was no sense of self for quite a while in that baby's first 8 or 10 or 12, 14 months of life. It had to grow. Where did it grow? It didn't grow in its freaking elbow. It grew in the brain through a mental state was being developed that had an idea about all this to seem to organize it, which was, it's happening to me. And so we lost the sense of life is happening, and we acquired an interpretation of life's happening as to me. Yeah? And we're not liking a lot of the results, but we're trying to get out of it as the me that life seems to be pointing at. And my humble suggestion is there is no me that's being pointing at. So if you want to get out of life, get out of the life that you think you're in, get out of the me that thinks it's in it. That's all. And it's so easy to get out of it because we've never been in it. That's the bottom line. If it was something that had to be done, it would be Herculean in nature. And that's the problem. People want it to be Herculean so they can be like Hercules, another one. But it's not. It's prior to the bondage. Just question the assumptions of the mental state. I don't mean all of the insane ones, just the bottom line ones. That's the only place that's needed, because your interest and your being beholden to all the other assumption is based on the beholding to the one assumption that you're a self. Being the self, it's like sort of like this row of old ideas. The best way to get relieved of old ideas is getting relieved of the oldest idea, and that's you're a someone. Yeah? All the other old ideas are like a necklace that is strung by that. Yes? This changes, suddenly I've let go of my old ideas. No, you didn't. What was holding them all together changed, and then yes? It's sort of like a row of knots. You have a row of knots, yes? And so let's say the 12th row of knot is financial security. 11th knot is relationships with others. 8th knot is physical health, okay? So we're living up and down this row of knots, trying to manage and control all these volatile things. So, all right, my relationships haven't been up to par in my view, so I'm going on relationship retreats and reading books, and I'm thinking, I felt it opened up the knot, and I tell everyone about it and stuff like that, and then 2 weeks later the knot's tightens up again. Oh, don't read that, but you told me to read it. Oh no, it sucked, it didn't work for me. So we're doing these things, but the fallback mechanism is to be knotted, yes? So you work hard and you get, all right, my finances, they're pretty good. Then the stock market crashes. And then all the stuff you thought had set up was all gone. So, yeah? So, but if you look at the knots, go down the road, yeah? There's the first knot, let's say, is the identification as a self, yes? That's the first contraction. That's what the body is. The mind had an idea of being something, it contracted into a body, that's the first knot. Yes? And then the mind of all minds gets identified with this little thing. So there's the knot. What happens, this is what happened with me, I went there. Instead of trying to deal with all my problems, I went to who's having the problems. It just made fucking sense finally, yeah? So I went there, I'm exploring and this and that, and then this knot loosened up. And lo and behold, a thread comes from here that goes to all the other knots that are actually holding the other knots in place. So when this was released, these all loosened up. Yeah? I said, fucking far out. Yeah? It seemed I got to the last point you can get. And that's where you open up and the grace occurs, and the grace just went, and I saw over time all these other topics were loosening up without much thought or effort on my part. I wasn't taking any more specific seminars. I wasn't targeting my problem. I got to, I don't like to say the original, but let's say in a linear way, the first, yeah? That loosened, everything else loosened. Voila. Yeah? I feel quite confident in sharing the message because it's worked in this life. Yeah? It worked in it. I got relief from what needs to get relief. Yeah? So all the need to get relief has diminished because I got relief from what really needed to get relief. But from, not for it. For is the slavery. All the retreats, and you're just enslaved trying to get relief for it. It doesn't work. It eats it up like crazy. Yeah? But relief from it, that's the direction. Yeah? So, don't worry about the thoughts. Just go to the one thought that you're the thinker. See if that's true. If you're not the thinker, you'll lose interest in the thoughts. They're fucking boring. What makes them seem so interesting is they're yours, really, or they're about you. Other than that, they stink. They're so boring. Have you ever used a journal and then you go back like 20 years later? The journal. I'm afraid of every night. I'm afraid of. Just change the topic. I'm afraid of, not having a girlfriend. I'm afraid of getting married. I'm afraid I won't get divorced. I'm afraid. So there's the baseline anxiety. Yeah? Just finding ways to express. Yeah? You take one topic off, it expresses in your spiritual search. How many people are anxious about their spiritual condition now? I don't know. I'm monitoring my spiritual condition. I think it's in intensive care. You know what I mean? All right, come on. All the saints, come in here. I need some fucking spirit blood put in this body. I don't know. I don't think I'm doing well. Why? I haven't been doing anything. You sign up for that retreat. And I know who you should go on a retreat for. I'm affiliated with them. I get a 10% kickback. Yes. Sign up for that retreat. $500. Yes, it goes on and on and on. Go to the point. Exact nature of the wrong. Get the right diagnosis. Yes? And then you can expect, very humbly, good results. Yeah? For me, finally, when I got back to the idea of being this long-lasting, independent, separate entity, that's when I got results that are worthy of the name solution. Because the solution revealed to me the problem doesn't exist as me. The problem doesn't exist as me. Yes?
The tendency to attach to the big self. Like now I started to know I'm not the small self.
Yeah.
And then I kind of trying to grab the big self and I am that I am. But it still don't feel like really free. Still like, okay, I'm on the spiritual path and I am that big self and like that's great. And in meditation I felt that's really great. That is what I am. It just, yeah.
Yes. If you are that, you don't need to grab it, honey. Yes?
Yeah, so it's still not yet. So it just.
Well,
like
it's not like
tricky.
it's not like it's cooking. It's not going to cook and be done. You're already it. Take the stove off. Take the pot off the stove. Yes, have it al dente now. Seriously, you are not going to have a grasp of the big self. The big self is a story in the realm of the little self. There is no self. Literally, there is no big self in comparison to a little self. There is no self. That's what you already are. And what happens sometimes, we get to seemingly lose it by looking for it so much. Yes? Maybe maybe if you just relax and let quote unquote Lee be Lee, you'll find out you're not Lee. Instead of trying to constantly revise and change Lee because you think it should be better, maybe you should just let Lee alone, and it will reveal to you that you're not that. And instead of trying to make it not that, it's gonna let it finally be what it wants to be, and it has to reveal its true nature, that it isn't. It's you trying to make it something that's disguising it. Yeah, that's what happens. I had it on a broad level of my life. In AA, when I was out there using, I did a lot of bad things, to people, myself and others, everything like that. And I had a lot of guilt and shame around it, a huge amount of guilt and shame about my behaviors and stuff. So a lot of my activity was to make that unreal, yeah? So if I stayed loaded, it didn't seem as real, that I was such a kid, not giving my mother money when I had it, and all like that. So I would just stay as low as I could, and I was in the effort of trying to make those things unreal because they seemed so real to me, yes? And then finally I came in AA, and I let all those things I had been trying to make unreal be as real as they wanted to be. I am an asshole, you know what? I did that to you. And all like this. I let it all land, and when I let it all land, it revealed that it's unreal. But it wasn't going to I wasn't allowing it to reveal its unreality by trying to make it unreal. Yeah? I let it be as real as it wants to be, and you'll see through it. Yeah? I was afraid that I was what I was thinking I was. And therefore, I was busy trying to deny that. I was afraid that something was inherently bad in me. And so I was trying to make it unreal, and I was being as bad as you could fucking be in the pursuit of trying to make it unreal. And as soon as it caught up to me, I let it all be as real as it wanted to be. It revealed its nature, which it's unreal. I was giving it the reality it had by trying to make it unreal. You see? This is what we're doing in practices. We're trying to make what's unreal, unreal, and therefore we make it real to us. Ha! It's such an insane thing. But you won't see it because we're caught in a very insane system, so the logic sounds sound. It seems like it makes sense while we're in the system, but it's insane. Yeah? We're trying to get into what we can't be out of, and we're trying to get out of what we can't be in. Really, literally. We're trying to get out of self, which we can't be in, and we're trying to get into the moment, which we can't be out of. It's like fucking crazy. It's exhausting because it doesn't work, right? I mean, how many things have we all done in here? If we combined all our efforts, it would be gargantuan. Yeah. You know what I mean? We could move mountains. It would be a mountain to be moved, really. And yet, here he is. It's like, I mean, maybe go to right to nothing, and maybe that will turn into everything for you. Instead of trying to get all these somethings, because they end up being nothing, really. Really, I did a lot of stuff out there, spiritual stuff, quote unquote. I did. I was committed, I mean, you have to go to India. I went there twice. I went on retreats in Thailand in the jungles. Just with soup once a day. I lose 20 pounds in there. But I was fucking high as a kite, 13 hours and starving yourself, you're going to have a feeling of highness. Yeah. I did this, that. I did Course in Miracles, went to a cult of Course in Miracles, had a great time. People were Kundalini events every day, going in trances. You'd be sitting, people going, woo, woo, woo. Things, people just going bananas. Wow, that's spiritual. I thought all this stuff was. And then, I'd be with someone there who was like a light junkie, and they told me it didn't mean a damn thing. I said, thank you. You saved me a lot of time. Yeah? And then I realized all the bells and whistles are just that. What we want is a baseline that's reliable, that produces an ease and comfort in our own skin right now, and allows us to be flexible and fit ourselves around circumstances instead of trying to manage circumstances to fit around us. And you won't be able to do that from the mental state. The being state, that's a natural form of expression from there. But in the mental state, it's too fucking contrived. Yes? There's going to be managing and trying to control everything. And it produces anxiety and stress. And therefore you want relief. So you eat, or you drink, or you shoot up, or you have incessant sex, or whatever it may be. And you wonder why. Oh, I just love doing those things. No, they're being produced by something else you don't see, and you're trying to move away from it. Yeah, from all the addictions are trying to move away from something. Yeah, you're not going towards anything in addiction. You're trying to get away from something. You're trying to get away from you in most cases, or self. But as a self, that's why it doesn't work. If you could transcend with drugs, I would have. I would match my devotion to drugs with any spiritual devotee in the history of spirituality. The Hanuman, all of them. I was right up there. I gave everything to it. I prostituted myself constantly. I loved it. I take what was yours and gave it to it. I was totally committed, devoted to it, year after year. And there was no transcendence. And I believe that's how I was going to transcend. I believe if I taught my mind up to a sufficient point, it would snap and I'd be free. Well, it didn't fucking work. And it wasn't my fault. You can't transcend an imaginary place. To leave somewhere, it has to be a place to leave. It has to be real. It isn't. That's the one point we're missing, and it keeps producing the same mistake, trying to get out of what you can't be in. And huge businesses have been built around that idea, trying to get out of what you can't. It's going to take lifetimes to get out of what you're not, what you can't be at. No, it'll take longer than that. It won't happen.
So karma doesn't exist.
It exists for the body, but you're not the body. This Ford will show its effect, all of its dents as another Ford when it manifests. Yeah, there's like a factory of Fords. We're all Fords. Yeah, we think we put a special emblem on it, but we smell like a Ford, drive like a Ford. You know what I mean? Why do you think astrology works so well? It's about the Ford. You came out of this Ford factory January 21st, 1952, 2 o'clock. You'll probably have these tendencies. Wow, how did they know? Well, they knew where I was built, the body. Yeah? And an Aquarian body's going to run like this. Oh, wow, unbelievable. How do you think astrology can be so good? It's not about what we are. It's about what we've taken ourselves to be. If you're born a certain time, that you came from that factory, they know how that factory runs because they've been watching it for thousands of years, and they say, this is how it's probably going to go. And you, wow, they were so spot on. How did they know? Because you're thinking you're so special when you're a Ford. Really? Yeah. As this body, you're a Ford. You're a Chevy, I'm a Ford. Yeah. We have a personalized manual, but basically that's not the manual. I mean, that's why we're so confused. We think we should be a Cadillac. But we're a Ford. It would go much easier if you just realize, hey, I'm a Ford, and then you'd realize I'm not a Ford. Instead of fucking denying the Fordness, trying to act like you're something else. Let yourself be exactly what you think you're not. Exactly what you think this is. Let it be so, and it will reveal itself not to be you. You're making it what it is. It was so obvious if you just looked at what's going on that it cannot possibly be what you are. You don't stop here. You're not behind the cheekbone. You know what I mean? Do all the lights go off when I shut my eye to the lights? No. There's light. You're light. You know? Does the show stop when I cut? Oh, nothing, you know? No, they're still seeing, it's just being blocked by the shade. Yeah, so it can't see through the faculty of vision, but it's seeing in all these other ways. You can't put a stop to it. It's like playing the little thumb in the dike. Yeah? There could be creatures that had 20 sense gates, 30 sense gates. Yeah? The consciousness isn't defined by the gates that it goes through. There's no limit of consciousness. There's no quantity to it. We're in an apparatus that has 5 or 6 sense gates. There's insects that have different ones. Yeah, it spills out wherever there's an opening. It's just like light. Where there's an opening, light will be coming in. It's not, oh, that's a very thin light. No, it's huge and it's moving through this little bit of possibility. That's what these are. So that's it. Let's have lunch. As what thinks it's in, which is really not a wanting to get out. Yeah? Yeah, so it made sense to me at that young age. I was pretty young, but it had a big hit on me. Because it sounded like the case, you know. I was moaning and whining about how things were, but I wanted to stay sort of the same, you know, how things were. Yeah? In other words, I want everything to change, but I don't want to change. But everything is based on you. Yeah, that's the dilemma. You know, everything is based on you. You give everything. Believe it or not, you know, it's up to you. But there's statements out there. Course in Miracles had some impacts on me, and yeah, I guess we're starting now. Yes, it sort of catches me by surprise. I didn't know the talk was going to happen. I thought I had more time. Because if you really, like I was trying to share earlier, with a certain thing that happened to me when I got sober was, and I had no idea, there wasn't a sense I was doing it or anything. I just saw that what I had been, since I was young, this was the story, it's just a story, but it's meant to sort of emphasize something. When I was young, this is a pretty good example of self-centeredness. When I was young, I was 6 years old, my father, you know, would play with me and everything. We were in a normal family. And then when I was 6, he got really sick. So he wasn't going to be playing with me that much anymore. So my mother told me that, you know, Dad's really sick. He's not going to go to the, you know, field with you. And then they got the family doctor to tell us kids. And I heard it. I heard what they were saying. But the way I received it was, what did I do to make my father not to want to play with me? This is the disease of self-centeredness, yeah? So in the Course in Miracles, they talk about, you know, I'm going to go on a whole nother thing right now, right? In the Course in Miracles, they talk about guilt as a huge thing. People are living in a state of guilt. And it's rooted in being the doer, obviously. You know, because where does all guilt and shame rest but on the branch of personal doership? If you didn't feel like you were to do it, there'd be no guilt or shame, yeah? But you feel like you did something that you shouldn't have done, or you didn't do something you should have done, yeah? And so it produces a something, yeah? Well, the only where it could rest is on the branch of personal doership, okay? So the Course in Miracles would talk about this guilt all the time. And then I realized that was a perfect example of it when I was a kid, because I had nothing to do with my father getting ill, but I thought I had all to do with my father getting ill, yeah? Because that's the only way self-centeredness could translate or interpret that news, that I must have done something to cause my father not to want to play with me. So this idea of guilt, I hope, I may be using it totally the way they don't want me to use it, of course, but I'll just say it. So this guilt is this feeling that we separated ourselves from God. Yes, in a way.
Yeah.
So there's a feeling like when we're looking, we hear stuff like, oh, the beauty of all beauties, and everything can be perfect, and love, 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 and then you have your experience during the day, and it doesn't really mirror that usually. Yes. And so it's like cognitive dissonance in a sense. You have this idea of perfection, but it ain't looking like it's manifesting, and somehow or another you think you're the reason why, in a sense, yeah? So they call it the feeling of being separate from God, you know? So there's God, and we give it all these things, but then we've chose to separate, and what does that make us, yeah? Now I ran into this when I was, the first spiritual group I ever met was I was 18. It was a guru Indian type group, and I got initiated into a form of knowledge practice, meditation, and a lot of the people were presenting him as the Lord of the universe. Yes, the Lord of the universe. Pretty big meaning, you know. I mean, just let it roll off your tongue a few times. It has a lot of meaning. The Lord of the universe. All right. So now, all right, there's the Lord of the universe. Now, I may have agreed or not, but I was in this movement. That was a lot of what it was about. The Lord of the universe has come, and the Lord of the universe. All right, so here I found myself. Here's the Lord of the universe, and I'm a follower, and I don't like the Lord of the universe. Now, what does that make me? Man, well, I went through years of what it made me. And it was a lot of fucking downloads of a lot of bad feelings of how could I not like the Lord of the universe? I mean, that's an impossibility, but I don't like the Lord of the universe. So the guilt and shame I had about that it drove me crazy. So the spiritual path, and it was funny because I didn't know anything about gurus, but as soon as I met one, I had tons of ideas about what a guru should be, what he shouldn't be, what I should be, what I shouldn't be. Tons of them, but they just kept coming for years. So I realized I hadn't experienced any of this. It's just like in the computer system, like the iCloud, yeah? There's this nefarious place that isn't a place that tons of information is stored, yeah? And if you hit a certain thing, it triggers some downloads. Well, guess what? On your little keyboard of life, Paul, you hit the Paul or the Tanya, and it downloads a lot of ideas and concepts about topics. Yes? It's sort of like a crazy Wikipedia with absolutely based on no fact whatsoever. Just tons of assumptions. So spiritual practice. All right, I've got to meditate like this. It was unbelievable. It was like I was living in a self-imposed straitjacket about something that was supposed to liberate me for 5 years. To the point where I'd go to a retreat, and he would go on this cavalcade, and jokingly, but not jokingly, I was thinking, if I could get like a delayed poison dart and hit him as the cavalcade passed me, and he wouldn't pass out for another 50 yards, they wouldn't know where it came from. And then I'd be done with it. The Lord used to be done, and I could just go on living my life instead of this incredible, I swear to God, it was just wreaking havoc. Just everything got so serious when the whole point was, light, L-I-G-H-T. All I got was more mental seriousness and heaviness. So, and it was just, what was the trigger of all that download was Paul. Yeah? As soon as Paul, who represents ideas, it's a representative of the mental state. When Paul met the Lord of the universe, then all this information downloaded into Paul about all this stuff and me. And it was really fucking heavy for 5 years. I wouldn't leave because he's the Lord of the universe, but I couldn't stand the Lord of the universe. I wouldn't let my, it was like unbelievable. So, and I figured I had never met this topic in my life. Where were all those ideas coming from? Yeah? I mean, I swear to God, I had no experience of guru or meditation or devotion, but I had tons of ideas and concepts about them. That's it. All you as a name Paul represents, you think it represents the body. To the mental state, it represents all that information that can download. All insane possibilities that will never happen, but you'll feel like they could. All of that stuff, all these ideas. So every time you walk in a room, there's thoughts about you walking into the room. They're not coming from the event of walking in the room. They're coming from Paul. The idea of being Paul walking in the room accesses that all those dead ideas, and they download and they affect your experience here. You become the carrier of the interpretation of the day. You're not getting an interpretation, you're the carrier of it. By whatever you meet, that sets it off, that it's you meeting it, triggers that download, and then tons of ideas show up. Relationship, tons of ideas, yeah? You had no idea what a relationship with another woman or man was, but you had tons of ideas of how you should be, how they should be. Yeah, where did it come from? Not from experience, came from a mental state, a storage of the mental state. Millions and millions of freaking crazy ideas about you and you with others and you as others and all like that. Yeah? And you get to be the harbinger of it. You're not getting the news, you're bringing the news into it. Yeah? And what triggers it is the Paul or the Tanya or the Mary. If you didn't have a feeling of Paul, it wouldn't trigger the download. You'd be responding to what actually is happening. Seriously. You would walk in a room. There wouldn't be thoughts about it. You would walk in. A feeling would arise, and there would be a noting of the feeling. Yes? Then you would see the thought reaction. Still not yours. See the thought's reaction. The thought says why you're feeling the way this feeling is, and this is what you should do. Well, you don't follow it. You just watch what it does. It claims the feeling. It says it's mine, and you're very uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, whatever. And it like writes the role out for you, has the script already written, and voila, yeah. Like a dead movement after a dead movement after a dead movement after a dead movement. Now, at this point, you're resenting things, which is re-feeling things. You're rethinking things. You're rehashing things. You're just doing again all day. The life has been squeezed out of it, and you get left with the lemon, basically. Really. So this idea of the guilt in the Course in Miracles, because the guilt of all of the things we've omitted and committed, we're trying to get rid of it. We're trying to dump it. And that's what they say the world's about. We're just trying to dump out guilt here. Usually, look at how you treat a significant other. You usually wouldn't treat a stranger like that, because you think you can get away with this significant other. Yeah? So, all right, I'm going to be a dumping load for you. You're a dumping load for me. Yeah? But, of course, my loads are going to be bigger than yours. And if your loads get bigger, fuck you, I'm out of here. And there's this whole thing, yes? Where's the love? So this is beautiful. So they talk about forgiveness, but then they said there's another state, which is atonement, which is you have the realization no one ever did anything. So there's no need to forgive slights perceived or real, because nothing ever happened as you thought it did. And the connoting and denoting the thought as the most important aspect. Nothing ever happened as you thought it did. Yeah? So the atonement, the freedom, is prior to what needs to be forgiven. That's the real relief. And this message is based similar to the same thing. It's prior to bondage. We're not saying you're troubled, or we're not saying you're not troubled. We're saying you're not the you that's troubled. Yes? The trouble will come and go if there's no you to grab it and put it into an orbit. Yeah? I'm troubled. Oh, little freedom. Trouble. Oh, freedom. Trouble. Oh. It's like you know what we are? We're like marathon runners put in a closet. We're running around a little lap of rehashing, rethinking, refeeling. And then what happens is we change the scenery so it looks like it's a new lap. It's the same fucking oval we've been going over for years. Just change the names of things. The same. Yeah. It's dead. It's like a muted, it's like a trumpet just with the mute in it all the time. Yeah. So this was really novel when I started to hear this idea, because I had been convicted in those mental courts, and there was no way I was going to get released for some of the things I thought I did. No fucking way. No penance was going to do it. No divine forgiveness. None of that, because I thought I was right about how wrong I was. Yeah? And it wasn't letting go. It had to be brought somewhere else. And thank God it was brought to that court of light, let's say. And where nothing has ever happened. There's been no convictions. There's no sentencing. You're not on probation. They're all of your own making. To admit that you don't really want to be free, because you want to be free as what can't be free. That's the beginning of something. Let that stuff become as real as it wants to be, and you'll see it's unreal. But if you're busily trying to make it unreal by spiritual practices and everything else, it'll be as real can be. Because you and I give everything all the meaning it has. You and I give everything all the meaning it has. Doesn't you and I give something, some meaning? You and I give everything all the meaning it has. Yeah? How can something seem so real that isn't real, unless reality is giving it the meaning? Where is that reality? It's right where you're sitting. Yeah. How could something that isn't real seem to be real unless it was seeming to be real to reality? Where else would it get reality, a sense of reality from? Where? It would have no idea what it was. It couldn't even fake it. But false evidence appears real to what's real. Yeah? And I find false evidence appears real to what's real quite easily when what's real is taking itself to be something it isn't. Because it's already based on a false evidence appearing real, which is the body, and therefore it's prone to fall for other false evidence appearing real. Yeah? And so on and so forth, producing a dis-ease and a discomfort. And then when we look for relief, we look at it in all the wrong places outside of ourselves. We think if they would only stop bothering me, I'd be great. But you'll find another me to be bothered by. Yeah? It's just the way it goes. If something hasn't worked to this day, it's probably not going to work. Lighter note, I wanted to talk about a little premise we have called Retreat from Paul. One of my favorite takes. So this is how it goes about, yeah? We're going to send you some CDs of some of the talks and some... All right, give me where you're going to be this week. I won't be there. Oh, I'm feeling fucking great. As soon as I haven't seen Paul in a few days, I feel this presence.
They sign for $50. You have to charge $500.
Oh, that's right. $500.
Yeah.
I'll make it
Then
more
they'll
fun.
sign.
I know. But that's the absurdity of it. I heard this thing that some people went on a retreat and they did a sweat and they died. And they were paying like $30,000 to be on the retreat. So they paid $30,000 to die. It's incredible, yeah? Blows my mind. That urge to get out of something as the something is really, really stubborn. It keeps on keeping on, yeah? You always want to be included. Yeah? You, even to the point of absurdity that you want to have an experience of your own absence. You want to be there to get it. I mean, this is so much simpler. Just when you're worrying about next week, why not just ask who it is that's worrying about next week? Because the importance of next week isn't coming from next week, it's coming from who's going to be in next week. Yeah? Really get to the root of it. What you're worrying about, no one probably else would have any interest in because it's not about them. Yeah? Why not look at where the meaning is giving? Stop giving next week the power to affect you when the meaning about next week is coming from you. Yeah? Just like that statement, you and I are the dreamer of the dream. We forget that we're dreaming, and we give everything we're dreaming the power to affect us. So we're dreaming about next week. A lot of times, yeah? And we're giving next week the power to affect us where? Now. Not in next week, but now. What could possibly do that? Next week can't. It's not happening. But what is happening? And what's producing that effect? Not next week. Next week is being used to produce the effect. Yeah? Next week is being used to produce the effect. And your belief is what's causing it to seem so. You have faith and you have fear about how you're going to be next week, and by thinking about it, you produce a contraction or an ill-ease now. Over and over and over again. I mean over and over and over again. That's what the mind does, the conditional mind. It thinks about you yesterday and tomorrow, and it produces a sense of you now. And that you is scared shit that it's not going to get what it wants, and it's going to lose what it has. And it has a lot of days to ruminate over it, because there's going to be a Monday probably following this day. And there's going to be all these other challenges on you. And then unfortunately, no matter how great you do Monday, there'll be a Tuesday to fuck up in. Yeah? And then a Wednesday to have guilt about what you should have done on Monday. And then Thursday, even a lifelong depression could start. Yeah? It would be great if every day was 1 second. We'd all be successful. I could just say, that's done, great. Bring on Monday, yeah. Dude, it's going wonderfully, you know? But unfortunately, 901 is followed by 902 and 903. And all this thing that you're calling a stable unit is very, very volatile. Emotional, circumstantial, situations, physical. You'll be feeling fine, then it's suddenly a pain and you're having an appendectomy, whatever, you know? Like that. It stops your whole day. Where is there relief and peace there? Where can you rest your head in all of that? Circumstances and situations can go awry like that. You know? Find where there is rest and then rest there. Tell the truth where there is no rest, yeah? And it will lead you to where there is rest. And when you hit where there is rest, the appropriate response is rest. Get rejuvenated. Find peace that's available right now, not as a commodity after you do and have certain things, but as a basic state that's prior to everything else. Why make it something as a goal that you need to get to or fail at when it's prior to all of that? No matter what's been seen, there's only been the seeing of it. What quality is that? Is that your quality? Are you conscious? Are you actually working to look out the window right now? Or does just seeing happen? Yeah? Am I straining to just see, I'm going to see an eagle, I'm going to see an eagle. It still won't appear unless an eagle appears. Then I'll see it. Yeah? Are you thinking, really? Are you sitting here, I'm thinking, I started an hour ago, here it comes. I thought I got away from it. It's coming from wherever, what's the other, Kensington. Oh, it hit, there it is. It's mine. This is my thought. It's just, that's a thought upon a thought upon a thought. The feeling of being a thinker is a thought that you're the thinker. It's a thought that you never have anymore. It's in place. And now every other thought is had by that thought. Every other thought is held by I'm the thinker. The freedom from thought is from the thought of I'm the thinker, not from thoughts. You will get lost in the thoughts, but look at the thinker. If you're not the thinker, you'll lose interest in the thoughts. They will not dominate your life anymore. Something else will override the thoughts, which is what's happening now. You'll respond to what's happening and have an immunity to what's not happening. The only place you have a life in what's not happening is through thoughts. You have to think about last week. You can't go back there. There's no airport you can land at next week. It's not there. The only way it can have an effect is by the thoughts, the mind thinking about it now. And then you hear this information, and then the self, this idea of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, says, I'm going to do something to get out of that. But that's what it is. Self can't get out of self. If self gets out of self, that's still self. Yes? The problem is mobile. It goes with you. Yeah? It's not like in Omaha, Nebraska, oh, I left the problem. I left self about an hour ago. Where do you think you are now? Self. Yeah. Self is attempting to get out of self. The range of self is wherever you are. Wherever you are, the self could possibly seem to be. You can't outrun it. I tried with alcohol and drugs. I tried to outrun it. I couldn't. You're the thing that's casting the shadow. It's not an independent shadow chasing you. You're what's producing it. You'd have to get rid of you to get rid of that, and you think that you could get rid of is you, and you won't get rid of it. You're going to include it. You're going to include it. You're going to include it in the spiritual awakening. You want to be awake. That's why this spiritual awakening isn't being noticed, because you're looking for it. Thing that it comes in contact with, and it will make it into something. Yes?
So the statement, know thyself, or to thine own self be true, trap. Yes?
If it's you knowing thyself, for sure. Like this master, Ramana Maharshi, says it beautifully. To know God is to be God. It's so beautiful, really, if you listen. To know God is to be it. Yeah? What happens in the mental state, to know God is to become a knower of God. That's not it. If you really knew God, you'd realize you're being God. Yeah? If you really know the self, you realize you're not one. Seriously. You can't study what you are, but you can study what you're not. Yeah? But what you are can never be studied. You cannot study non-duality. You can study duality and then apply the non-duality idea to it. Yeah? And negate it. But you can't get non-duality through the study of non-duality because you can't study non-duality. You can study duality because it can be seen. It can be, yes, you can check it out. Hot and cold, day and night, yes? Feeling connected and then disconnected and connected. Those are all dualistic swings of a split mind that's dreaming. That's what it is. Based on the original dualism, which is subject-object. You taking an object to be a subject and then objectifying everything to you. Yeah? So you don't recognize you're the same you that you're looking at. You think it's me. Why? Because you gave the attributes of spirit to you, to the body, and you crown it me. You're not giving the attributes of spirit to the other person. You're seeing them as a you. Yeah? But you're special. It's me. Yeah? You don't see it? The structure, you're walking on the structure. You're walking on the painted footmarks for the dance floor. It's all structured. It's all made up. Life happens, and then there's an interpretation of life from a mental state. That's called self-centered. So everything is seen as how it pertains to you. That's not seen. If everything is seen as how it pertains to you, that's a form of looking called self-centeredness. And it's a blindness to seeing. If you apply the looking to try to find seeing, it will never occur because it's always occurring. You'll miss it. And the harder you look, the more you'll miss it. It's not going to budge. You're not going to see it. You're not going to touch it. You're not going to feel it. You're not going to have it. You're not going to achieve it. You can't lose it. Yeah? You're not going to amp it up, nor are you going to diminish it. Yeah? You get there by realizing you never left. Basically, that's it. As soon as you realize you weren't a self, you will find out what you are. All the information about self will distill to one thing: I'm not that. Yeah? Once you put that question mark in there, when light comes into this topic, you'll see it for what it is, which it isn't. Yeah? You'll see all the structuring, all the pointing, all the assuming, all the insinuation, yet there's nothing it's pointing at. It's just pointing, you and I do the leap into taking ourselves to be. There's nothing to be, but we just take ourselves to be. We already are. There is nothing we can be, but we take ourselves to be something, a mental idea, put on a physical reference point. That's what it is. And then we live a self-centered life, and it's producing tons of pollution and smog and dis-ease and unhappiness in our lives, and we can't seem to get out of it because we're trying to as a self, which is just promoting new kinds of disease. You get rid of one, a new one morphs in. Yeah? We don't see that. We're giving the meaning to things. We're thinking meanings are being imposed on us by things. We want liberation from things, but as a thing. Yeah? Give up thingness and you'll be liberated from things. Doesn't mean the action figure's not going to do it. They were never your preferences anyway. This Ford turns a certain way, like a lot of other Fords. My head wants to say they're mine. They're very special little turnings. No? And the turnings won't stop when you realize there is no self, because the self was never doing any of it anyway. It's just the action figure. It's a pretty advanced little thing going on, and it's an interaction with life producing experiences. But it's not what's seeing, it's being seen. Awareness is seeing this little pantomime. Happened. I heard it, I entertain it, and that's the only reason why I never leave this point, because if you do, without this being clear, it's pointless. Because the mistake will use space and time and geometrically progress. So a little mistake will become seemingly a really big one. Like they usually say, like one step is like a 10,000, that's it. One step, amplify it, will be like 10,000 feet away, which from a point you never moved from. But it will feel like it. It will really, really feel real what's going on. Because more and more of reality will be given to things, and less will be resting in its own nature. Your interest and attention will be busily scurrying around from one thing to another thing, trying to make it better for this thing, all the while losing that glow of what you are. Yeah, it's crazy, man. To me, it's like a form of slavery. It's just dog shit awareness. You're just on, and you know you're on. You know? There's the sense of I am generating a vibration, and you're conscious of that. Yeah? In other words, one bass line, one bass note prior to all the other notes is now being heard. And it brings a semblance of peace in your life. Because that note did not come, did not go, and it's the underlying note of all notes. And you're on that string now. Yeah? It's plucked all day, and it's just the reverberation echoes and echoes and echoes with everything that comes, with everything that goes, with all the feeling of being far from and close to. None of them are yours. They're just movements of mind. Yes? You're that stillness that sees it all. None of this could possibly happen without you. Here's the secret handshake. Oh, I know that lady. How you doing? Good, good. I think we're over. Soon. All right, I'll try it, my honest. Let's see. Really, I just, tell you the truth, I have such an honor. I like just the one delivery of it is more than enough for me, I honor that. Sometimes it's like putting too many presents under the tree. You get lost in the presents. But hey, probably an old idea. I'm gonna have to let go of get into the business of this, so I can have you come on 10-day retreats. Pay me lots of money to get nothing. Have to have a lot of filler. While I'm out and having lattes, you'll be sitting quietly for hours on hours, and then you'll attribute all the effects that you produced as something I had something to do with, when I had absolutely nothing to do with it. And you'll support a very lavish lifestyle. And then when I come in town, you'll say, can we have a longer retreat? Oh, okay, sure, yeah. More lattes, more desserts, you're in there. How are they doing out there? Good, they're sitting still for the 8th. All right, I think I'll come out for 10 minutes and say something. That was so profound. Well, anything would be after 8 hours of sitting. I mean, you know how much we attribute to others that they had nothing to do with? You feel so great, it's the crowd probably. You want to focus it on the one person in front, it's you brought it to the thing. You brought the energy to the event, and somehow the energy gave you permission to let it go. Yeah? And you just can't bear to think it's you, so you have to pin it on someone else. And they're going to have to fail you. Just like they say in Zen, if you see the Buddha on the street, shoot him. Because it's a way of attributing what you are to someone else, so that you can forget that you are it. Yeah? Shoot them. So that you're left with that nature that is your nature. Not yours as a commodity, but innately what you are. Yeah? We're just here to amplify it. So we gather together and you can feel it in the room. It gets amplified. There's like a living, vibrating pause now. Yes? It's dripping actually. So you can get nourished by it. Yes? We're all in cahoots. No one's producing this. This is just flowering from what's already here. Yeah? And when you came in, it was the same possibility. When you leave, it's the same possibility. Exactly the same possibility, because you brought it, you were with it here, and you leave with it. Remember when I first did these talks, I get really high. It's never different. It's just the same bzzz all the time. All the fun's been taken out of it. Because it's not an experience. I'm serious. If you're an experience junkie, this isn't for you. Because it's not an experience. It's just what is. Vibrating away, and you're laying on that note, and that vibration's moving through you, on that bass in that line. Yeah? It's not a big thing like that. It's just and then all the demarcations and the divisions of time, like days, they just fade out, you know. The hierarchy of experiences fade out. And then you just have this huge experience of like always in time. Yeah? That this little section of always called time is going to end, but you've been in the always the whole time. Experiences have come and gone, you don't even remember any of it. Yeah? You don't remember, like when I go home, no one even asks me how the trip was. Because I say, it's over. You know what I mean? That's it. I have no memory of it. I'm not mining this. I'm not going to go home and mine what happened here. Because where I am, it's still happening. I don't have to deaden something and try to suck the last juices out of it. The live thing is occurring constantly. So all these partitions that they just blend into just one big fucking event. Yeah? You appear here, you appear in Toronto, you appear back in Tam Valley, you appear, that's it. But where did you appear out of is what you are. What do you leave and go back to is what you are. Yeah? It's just unbelievable. And it's so subduing. It's just a nice vibe. Yeah? You just chilled out. I'm not looking for a super turbocharged Sunday night to make up for this lousy Sunday afternoon. I'm not. I'm not in the market for it. I swear to God. You want to have a more exciting life? No, thank you, I don't. Do you want to be doing anything other than now? No, I don't. Yeah? You can't have that as a practice. That's a result. That's a result of your mind moving from self-centeredness to centeredness. Yeah? It's not bound by experiences anymore. It outshines them. It's not bound by circumstances, situations. It outshines them. Yeah? It's not bound by physical conditions. It outshines them. It's not bound by spiritual philosophies. It outshines them. Yeah? And you recognize it as truly reliable. You can rest, you know? You can fucking finally rest this insane head. You thought it was going to be like a horizontal pillow, but it's a vertical pillow, really. Yeah? You break through the loop of self-importance, which is horizontal, and you open up to verticalness. A lot of possibilities are downloading. Yeah. It's funny how much we forget by trying to remember what's forgettable. Yeah. try to remember so hard what's forgettable, we tend to forget what is. You know? It's so much easier just to read what is and forget what's forgettable. All that you hope that would bring you, you've got already. You're replenished, you're refilled, you're filled. It's never ending. It's always available at all times. And it's not asking for anything. But it will respond to your attention and interest. It will give like multifold for a little attention and interest. You'll be blessed quite a lot, you know. And maybe, just maybe, you'll honor it more than you honor a lot of other things, and in so doing, you'll be honored, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Yep.
Some of the traditions,
Let go of a flock of birds that you've got caged in. Let them be freed into the sky, into the space that you are. I just had a huge event with that. An older man who used to come to the talks, he's passing away. Bedridden, now he's just like a straw man. Touch him, it hurts everything, the bones, you know. There's no skin really left. But he's awake, and just think of him now, it just provokes so much sadness in me, seeing him through me, and it was rich as hell. It just was such a joy, and the energy in the room was gorgeous, you know, and I'm really happy he's gonna be done, you know, with the body condition. It'd be nice to see him go, and he's ready to go. And it's just like, to me, it was like a beautiful bon voyage for something that's never leaving, you know, just like, but it was really rich. That wasn't provoked, that just was, the possibility was available for that to occur because I'm available, you know, where before I wasn't, and all that stuff would get stored up and then come out inappropriately. Now I'm available when sadness needs to be had, it's had, and then it moves away, leaving a clean slate in an empty space for something else to fill momentarily. Yes, that's how living is, you know. And you don't know what brings it on. I was dealing with the tow truck driver, you know, the tow place, the extortion racket, $65 for him to hold my car for a day, 2 hours. I was trying to get out of that little plan. And then his wife called me and says, you gotta come. And what she was concerned about was the DVD I gave in the room. He said, to get the DVD out so someone doesn't take it or something. And you know, he's passing away. So I went, you know, just hit me like a ton of bricks, went there, and then it was joyous and so empty. You know, just came, did its thing and left. And enriched, it was a very enriching experience. There's no, it hasn't been quantified or captured or made into a story. It's just life happening, yeah? You're a big enough vessel to receive it and to let it go, don't you think? You probably don't, but you are. Yeah.
it's the same with anger.
Anger, everything. Anger is a useful energy. That's all it is. I mean, a lot of times I have the anger in the talks. If I had a sword, I'd be cutting heads off here. With my own head. Mine would go first and then cut yours. Oh, for sure, man. Anger has been very appropriate. It's been used in these talks quite a lot over the years. I'm not into the calm, loving gaze thing. I'm sick of that. It's like pablum to me. You know, you ever seen Designado Maharaj? He was pretty animated, you know? He was like, fucking, you've been here too long, get out. He laid the message on, and if they started, you know, perching there, he'd kick them out. Go ahead and live. I feel exactly the same way. It's not like, this isn't like a fucking sucking a teat for 8 years. This is like, my job is to become obsolete. My success is when you don't need to come here, but you like to. That's great. I love that. I have that with Tanya and some of the other people who've seen me for a long time. But to be successful in my job, it should be obsolete. I should become obsolete. I'm just a mailman. Yeah? I'm delivering the good news. You're the good news. Yeah? That's the news. Really. If I had a big following and it kept expanding, I'd really have to look at what I'm doing. Seriously. Something's wrong if there's another dependency growing on it. Yeah. I gotta stop soon. The energy is rushing too fucking much. I'm gonna have a heart attack soon. Yeah. When this comes through, it's very strong sometimes, energetically, yeah? And that's why I wouldn't want to do long things, because my apparatus wouldn't take it, wouldn't be able to take it. It's fucking, it can be stressful on the body. You know, it's very strong juice is pushing out of this thing, in a sense. And you know, I've noticed I've had to learn how to take care of myself quite a lot because it's very strong, you know. And it amplifies what's ever weak in the body at the time it's moving through it, very much. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for it now. Man, it's nothing to be played with. I just think it needs to be honored more, you know. And I honor it. I take this as a great privilege to be able to entertain this idea with us, because I really honor it. I've seen the possibility of it pragmatically reveal itself in my own life, you know. The events of my life have been radically changed by this message. Radically changed. It affected, you know, I've had 26 years of unbroken, sobriety with no thought or effort of alcohol and drugs. Never. Totally like the problem doesn't exist for me. You know? And it didn't stop there. It went farther to take the root of the problem, weaken that, which is the identification as a self, and weaken that sufficiently where I have immunity to thoughts and what's not happening. You know? As a living thing.
What's not happening. If that could be a good newscaster, if we could create it, right?
Yeah, great. What's not happening is what most of the mental states are occupied with right now. We're not responding to what's happening. We're reacting to what's not happening. Tell the truth. Look at the value system of your thought system. It's about yesterday and tomorrow, not now. If it valued now, there wouldn't be a thought going on. If the thought system valued now, there would be no thought. But it's using now to think about yesterday and tomorrow. It doesn't value now. It doesn't value the moment. It fills it up with thoughts about yesterday and tomorrow. If you want to put your money in that, you're going to get a certain return. You're going to get anxiety from a place into a place where there's no apparent thing to be anxious about. You'll be taking it from 3 weeks from now, and it will be blossoming right in this moment. And you'll feel a contraction where nothing else is bringing that, not even fainting like this should be a contraction. Yet you'll contract. Contract, contract, contract. If you get into the habit of contract, there'll be points where you won't be able to uncontract. This will be the new norm, yeah? Do you feel like you feel like a kid now? Kids were very, very uncontracted, and now all this, we're pretty damn fucking contracted. That's it. That's it for today. I gotta stop.